A few spots of rain, perhaps over Dartmoor, but mostly dry towards the southwest. And the best of the sunshine during the morning will be through the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, where it will feel warm and increasingly humid once again with the wind coming from the southwest. And that wind will be picking up strength across northern parts of the UK, bringing more persistent and heavier rain into western Scotland, northwest England by the end of the afternoon, making it feel on the cool side, but temperatures up to 27 or 28 Celsius, where we see the sunshine in the southeast. That leads us on to a muggy night for sleeping and a grey start to the weekend for many of us. Now, the areas of rain across Scotland sink south into central parts of the country by Saturday afternoon and then fizzle away as high pressure builds in from the south. That's going to import much hotter air by the end of the weekend and the start of next week.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A82 at Alnwick remains shut due to a road incident, so motorists should find alternatives. In Barnsley, the M1 southbound exit slip at junction 36 is delayed. Expect normal conditions by 7:15. The A43 northbound in Northamptonshire has a lane closed, with 30-minute delays expected. The M1 southbound exit slip at junction 5 in Hertfordshire is congested with 10-minute delays. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railway report major disruptions in the Milton Keynes central area. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
To all of you who voted for GB News to win at the Trick Awards for the 3rd year in a row.
So thank you so much for voting for us.
First, and hopefully there'll be a few more to come down the line.
GB. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's because of you that we're proud to be the People's Channel. It's because of you that we are Britain's news channel.
Good evening. The row over the welfare bill continues. Just how much trouble is PM Keir Starmer in? The Albanian Prime Minister has a right go at the UK. He's anti-Brexit and says we're in a dark place because we want, possibly, to take some Channel migrants and send them elsewhere. And the left in America changes as New York picks a candidate even more extreme than London's Sadiq Khan. But before all of that, let's get the news with Sam Francis.
Nigel, thank you, and a very good evening to you. The top story tonight at 7. Sir Keir Starmer has confirmed the government is in talks with Labour rebels over possible welfare concessions ahead of a key vote on Tuesday. Now, 126 Labour MPs are backing an amendment to block the bill, which includes cuts to disability benefits and universal credit changes. The Prime Minister told MPs the goal is reform with Labour values and Labour fairness, but warned the process will be tough going. Chancellor Rachel Reeves is involved in the talks as pressure mounts to soften the £5 billion of cuts. The government, though, insists the vote will still go ahead as planned next week. The NATO alliance is more lethal than ever. That is how the Prime Minister described it as world leaders commit to boosting defence spending. Sir Keir Starmer says the UK will spend 5% of GDP on national security by 2035 and rebuild Britain's nuclear deterrent. He told MPs today in the Commons the plan will create 20,000 jobs and secure Britain's place on the global stage. The pledge follows new warnings about threats from Russia, from China and Iran. Well, here's what the Prime Minister had to say to MPs in the Commons earlier today.
It has kept this country safe for decades, but we recognise the grim reality today that the nuclear threat is growing. So we are renewing our existing at-sea capability, and we are going still further. I can tell the House today that we will procure at least 12 F-35A fast jets, and we will make them available to bear nuclear weapons if necessary. Mr. Speaker, this marks the return of the Royal Air Force to nuclear deterrence for the first time in 3 decades, the biggest strengthening of our deterrence posture in a generation, keeping our country safe while also supporting 20,000 jobs.
In other news tonight, 2 Met police officers have been sacked with immediate effect for the strip search of a 15-year-old black girl at school, a search deemed disproportionate, humiliating and carried out while she was on her period. Known as Child Q, she was wrongly suspected of carrying cannabis and searched without an appropriate adult present. A third officer received a final written warning. England's Children's Commissioner has called it one of the most disturbing cases in recent memory and, quote, a line in the sand. The force says it is deeply sorry and admits there were serious failings in both training and oversight. The pound has surged above $1.37 today, hitting its highest point in almost 4 years. The markets are reacting to reports that Donald Trump might replace the head of the US Federal Reserve sooner than expected. The president slammed Jerome Powell, calling him terrible and hinting at a change. Traders are worried, they say, about Donald Trump potentially picking someone more aligned with his views, weakening the dollar. 3 people have been taken to hospital after a double-decker bus carrying sixth form students crashed into a river today in Hampshire. The bus was transporting pupils from Barton Percival Sixth Form College when it left the road earlier today. 14 others were treated at the scene, with police confirming all passengers have now been accounted for. 3 of those injured are being treated as high-priority cases. Major porn sites will introduce strict age checks for UK users from the 25th of July. It's part of new Ofcom rules aiming to stop children accessing harmful content online. The robust age verification will include new methods like credit card checks, open banking or facial age estimation. It will be the first time those measures have been enforced across the UK. Ofcom says that protecting young users is a top priority. And in Venice, Jeff Bezos has been targeted by protesters yet again ahead of his star-studded wedding in the city. Earlier today, a mannequin was set up near the canal depicting the Amazon billionaire sat on a toilet in his wedding tuxedo. The stunt, called Pre-Wedding Nerves by the anonymous art collective Con Artist, features Bezos clutching a newspaper with fake US dollars spilling out of a box. It follows a string of protests against the multi-million-pound wedding, with activists blocking the original venue and even threatening to fill the canal with inflatable crocodiles. Well, that wedding has now moved location, but demonstrations are set to continue. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you for a full roundup in an hour's time. Now, though, let's get straight back to Nigel.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. 1 in 10 people of working age in Britain is claiming a sickness or disability benefit of some kind. That number is rising, unbelievably, by 1,000 people every single day. Already, the bill for this is about £75 billion a year. It's due to rise, unbelievably, by 2030 to perhaps £100 billion a year. So perhaps it's not surprising in some ways that the Chancellor, the Prime Minister, are trying to reduce some aspects of this bill. Perhaps a cut of around about £5 billion. But this is going down incredibly badly with the Labour backbenchers. It would appear about 136 Labour backbenchers right now are in full, open revolt. When you take out those that have ministerial positions, it's nearly half the backbench Labour Party. I wonder what will happen. There's talk today that the Prime Minister has changed his diary. He'll try to ease rebels' fears by saying they'll speed up payment of funds to help people back into work. They'll review the policies to see the impact of them after a short period of time. But I wonder whether any of this is actually enough. It's not even 1 year since Starmer was elected, and he really has now a major problem with the backbenchers. I suspect this isn't just around these payments. I suspect it's about winter fuel allowance. I suspect he's actually upset some quite large sections of his party, and indeed the public too. So, I'm keen to get your thoughts on this. How serious is this for the Prime Minister? Tweet #Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. I am joined in the studio by Stella Santakidou, former Labour advisor, and Sam Lister, associate editor of the Daily Express. Stella, you know, you're a nailed-on Labour supporter. This is, within the first year of Prime Ministership, pretty serious.
Well, look, Nigel, in the Labour Party, we believe that it is more important that you protect people from hardship, especially people who cannot work or who have difficulties which most of us do not have to face, over making sure that you don't have a single person who is perhaps abusing the system, because at the end of the day, the money that's going to be saved, it's going to be coins behind the couch compared to money that for example, we could save from tackling tax evasion.
Oh, we've heard this year after year.
I get it. Look, I get it.
And it's not true. It's not true.
The welfare bill needs to go down, for sure. But welfare reform, long-term effective welfare reform, means that you need to invest. There needs to be an initial investment to save in the long term. To me and to a lot of people in the Labour Party, this looks like you just needed to cut some money from the budget, and you found that place to do that. That is unconscionable for the vast majority of people in the Labour Party. And this is why you see what you're seeing right now, where you don't just have, and let's face it, most of the people in there isn't anyone from the far left. There are like a handful of left-wingers left. This is moderates. These are people who do not want to be rebelling against the Labour government. These are people who want to be loyal to Keir Starmer. And this is why you're hearing of junior ministers.
And that's why this is so serious. Because, as you say, this is not the hard left. It's actually the soft left. Mm-hmm. And in many cases, people who are chairs of committees.
All 11 of the Labour chairs of select committees.
Yeah, which is extraordinary. What happens now, in your view?
I think that we need to look at what has happened previously when Keir Starmer made decisions and there was an immediate backlash. So rather than doing what happened with the winter fuel allowance, where you marched the troops and then you had a lot of MPs going and supporting this and explaining this and justifying it. And I justified it myself because I do think that there are some good arguments to be made about millionaires not getting extra benefits. But we realised, Keir Starmer eventually realised the damage this was causing and the discontent. Don't let it go that far with this one.
No, well, actually, I think in that case, U-turning almost made it look worse than doing it in the first place. I'm joined down the line by John McTernan, former Labour Special Advisor. John, good evening. Welcome back on the programme. Tell you what fascinates me, and that's the relationship that Prime Ministers have with their backbenchers. Because I was quite struck, and I'll ask Sam Lister this in a minute, but I was quite struck that Boris Johnson was totally aloof from his backbenchers, and he sort of thought, well, they all should be grateful, they wouldn't be there without me. And then when they turned on him, boy, they turned on him. I just wonder, does this Prime Minister, does he know his backbenchers? Can he make phone calls to them? Does he have those relationships? Or is he a little bit high and dry here?
I think there's a problem for Keir, obviously, which is that the Labour Party, when he took it over as leader, was one of the smallest numbers it had ever been in history, and it's now one of the largest numbers. And it'll take anybody some time to memorise the names and the faces of everybody. There's that to it. I think Keir isn't from the Commons in the same way that maybe a Tony Blair was. Tony being an MP for 11 years before he became the leader of the Labour Party. He then had been in the Commons, and you get the Commons culture, you get the way of hanging around, and there's a lot when it comes to it, and push comes to shove. You want people to think fondly of you, kindly of you, to remember a beer with you, or a coffee with you, or a gossip with you, and I think you have to be around and about much more than modern Prime Minister are able to be, because to be fair to Keir, he's not been going abroad on jollies. He's been going abroad on big issues to do with NATO, to do with trade deals, to do with defence spending. There's quite a lot of demands now on a Prime Minister's time. So I do think that what you need in those situations is an operation that sits around you, so that when you're in the country, you're either in the Commons or we used to get groups of MPs plus their spouses in, really important, regional groups of MPs. You come into the House and you get a chance to be in the House of Downing Street itself. You get the chance to be in the seat of power. So a lot of the management, and that needs to be done upstream as well. You don't want to be doing it in a crisis. You want people to know, oh, well, I was there over the last year, there should have been loads of MPs in with the spouses, just enjoying the fact that Labour are government.
How much trouble, John, is he in?
Look, I think if he decides to push it to a vote on Tuesday, a lot, because when you take a defeat in the House of Commons, it's serious. It's your peer group, whether they're opposition MPs or your own backbenchers. And when it's your own backbenchers inflicting a defeat on you, you do lose some authority. And you shouldn't be losing authority in your first year in office. So I think the trouble is sufficient for him to decide to go into conversations. And as you know, Nigel, for conversation, let's read compromise. What's the compromise going to be? It's in the wording of it's a reasoned amendment, House of Commons terminology for if you pass this, it kills the bill. But the reasoned amendment is actually quite reasonable. It's got a programme, so you could delay the bill and say, we'll now spend weeks looking at each of these issues that rebels have signed up to. And I think, again, this comes down to it. When you've had to make a concession to rebels, you've got the weak hand. You can't dictate to the rebels, no, we won't accept that, we'll have a process on our terms. The process will be on the rebels' terms, and all these select committee chairs, as your guest was mentioning, these are select committee chairs. They're experienced, seasoned politicians. They're not going to be taken in by, I'll give you a verbal assurance. The old Hollywood motto, which a verbal assurance is not worth the paper it's written on.
Interesting. John, thank you very much indeed for giving us your thought. Sam, I made the point there that Boris just had no relationship with his backbenchers, almost as if they were beneath him. They turned on him. And it was interesting, John saying, well, there's a huge number of newbies. There just hasn't been time. But that Keir doesn't have that sort of parliamentary history. He's in trouble whatever he does now, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a real mess. I mean, I think politics is you have to have a mixture of charm and menace, and he has neither. He bends in the wind. We've seen that with the U-turn on winter fuel, which was so cat-handed, it's unbelievable. I mean, he suffered a year of pain and has had no upside from it. And also it sent out a signal that this man can be turned. And so really now he's in enormous trouble. If he pushes this to a vote, that would be insane in my opinion. I think we're going to see a massive concession over over the next few days. There has to be. But then you go back to the same thing as the winter fuel. What was the point of it all?
Well, if you have a massive concession, what's the point of the legislation at all?
Exactly. And we know that it's a bit like the winter fuel. They wanted a headline number and they just found something to fit it. It wasn't... He has no ideology, and we keep being told that because he is pragmatic, because he is practical, that's a good thing. But it's like saying you want, having a politician who can't do politics. It's like having an accountant who can't do maths. It's pointless. You have to be able to do the basics.
Is he a pointless PM?
I mean, well, clearly. I mean, what has he done? What has he done? He's given away islands and making us pay for it. He's, U-turn on the winter fuel. He's obviously going to have to U-turn on this. What are the upsides?
Well, let's ask Stella.
Look, welfare needs to be reformed. I'm actually very keen on our welfare system being reformed, on helping more people getting into jobs. I'm very, very keen on a lot of the changes in Liz Kendall's programme, and especially with Job Centres Plus, making them a place where people go to actually build their career and
does this Prime Minister have authority?
He definitely has authority. And this is...
Is he not about to lose it?
He has authority because I can tell you he's done a lot of things that have been very difficult for the Labour Party to accept, this being the biggest one. And the fact that this is the first time that we're seeing a rebellion of this size, even though he has the sizable majority that he does, shows you that he very much still has the authority in the party.
I mean, you shouldn't be having a rebellion within the anniversary. The first year anniversary is this Thursday. To have a rebellion on this scale in your first year of government, I think is just it says everything. I mean, I've been around a long time and I've seen the ends of governments and the starts of governments, and this very much feels like the end of a government. It's really bizarre to me.
I have to say, a year in, this is a massive 130 plus MPs. It's huge. We'll see. I don't think this will go to a vote on Tuesday. I think they'll be absolutely stone bonkers to do it. And then if they water it down, there's no point anyway. It'll all get kicked into the long grass, is my view. In a moment, the Albanian Prime Minister says Brexit Britain is in a dark place. We'll talk in a moment about hypocrisy in politics.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, in the past few minutes, Meghan Markle has paid a sweet tribute to Princess Lilibet as she turns 4 today. It comes just a day after the Duchess of Sussex said she'd love to go into business with her daughter in the future.
Well, that's all it is, another money-making effort there. That's to make up for nobody buying her jam. I mean, do you really care if you see a picture of her kid or not? You do, that's it.
I'd like to see her face, to be honest.
I don't. Now, back to Diana, of course, who was a real star and style icon and whatever. And one day I can remember I complimented her on her outfit that she was wearing, and it was the same colour as the outfit you were wearing yesterday.
Bottle green?
No. RUC green. Royal Ulster Constabulary green. As she pointed out to me, she said, yes, RUC green, what do you think? And then she went into a whole, literally, sob story. She started crying about a bomb explosion that had been in Northern Ireland or whatever. She was very, very close, very connected with all of that. But, yeah, so...
And knowledgeable as well, by the sound of things.
She was very knowledgeable, yeah. And then she went on to talk about William and Harry going to school and how that upset her, and they went to boarding school or whatever it is. So we talked about all those things. And I forgot why I was going to tell you that story, but there was some reason. But she was... it was the same colour as what you were wearing yesterday, anyway, the green.
Oh, and she was so lovely by the sounds of things.
She was film star status. I mean, you just saw her in a room and you would go...
Wow.
She's special, yeah, she's special.
And I think whoever that was speaking in that report there saying, one of the designers, I think it was the designer of the wedding dress, saying it was just clothes or just a dress, but then Diana wore it and then it was something special. Absolutely. And it became part of history. And that's exactly what happened.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some of your thoughts at home about how much trouble the Prime Minister may or may not be in. Daniel says the problem is that a high percentage of the so-called disabled people are not disabled and have better incomes than some who have elected to work for a living. That is, believe you me, a massive problem through society. Jane says if this country had its way, there'd be another general election with minimal postal votes allowed. Wouldn't be minimal under me, there'd be none. Sammy says it's getting nearer to a vote of confidence. Well, let's see. If he pushes it to a vote on Tuesday, with the proposal as it is, unamended, it will effectively be a vote of confidence, which is why I don't believe they'd be stupid enough to do it. OK, the Albanian Prime Minister, Edi Rama, has given an interview to The Guardian. He, of course, slags us off for Brexit. He says that Britain is now in a dark place, looking for places to dump migrants. He says that much of what we say post-Brexit has become totally unacceptable, totally ridiculous, totally shameful. Well, this same Edi Rama, this giant of a man, look, I mean, Starmer's not short. He's a giant of a man, is the socialist premier of Albania. How he can criticise us when he spent months negotiating with the Prime Minister of Italy, Meloni. He'd agreed to take large numbers of their cross-Mediterranean migrants. In the end, he didn't take that many, but he had those negotiations. And I'll tell you what, Mr Rama, do you know 1 in 50 Albanians in Britain's in prison? So show a bit of goodwill and take them all back tomorrow, because, frankly, we don't want them. Stella, this is hypocrisy on a grand scale, isn't it?
I agree with you, Nigel.
We're in trouble now.
He should take his prisoners back if that's what he thinks. If he thinks that the UK is such a terrible place for Albanians to be in, he should take his prisoners. But what I would say is he's a very good politician, right? Because what he's basically doing is his party is a social democrat / socialist, more leftist kind of party, right? And he is working very closely and bending the knee literally to Giorgia Meloni, who is one of the most right-wing politicians across Europe. So he has to show to his own constituency, to his own voters back in Albania that he defends them, and what he does is he strikes where he can reach,
but hang on.
But
hang on. He says that the fact we consider sending illegals somewhere else means we're in a dark place, whilst he himself negotiates to take the same sort of people from the Italians.
It was where the idea first started, and also it should be said that these return hubs are not meant to be for asylum seekers. They're meant to be for people whose application has already been rejected, and they have exhausted all of their legal rights in the UK. So this is not like, we're not saying we're going to be sending everyone there straight away.
Well, Rwanda was slightly different. I mean, Rwanda was they'd get processed there, but it never happened. I mean, Sam, I don't know. I suppose naturally the hackles rise if somebody attacks the UK in this way. I just think it's hypocrisy in politics. But is that what the game is? I mean, you've been writing about this for years.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think Stella has one good point in that he's a good politician. He's a big character. We know who he is, and actually, that's quite an amazing thing, really, for an Albanian Prime Minister to actually have a bit of recognition over here. But let's be clear about what is happening here. This is Brexit boo-hooing. This is Europe still never getting over us leaving, and also it also shows us something that they don't have this problem. In 10 years' time, when they have this problem, they'll be in the same position as us. They instead of people trying to send migrants they'll be trying to send migrants to somewhere else, because this problem will shift. Every 10 years, it's going to shift somewhere else. We've seen this with Ireland. Ireland was very kind of moral about this, and then they started seeing the problem on their own shores, and they got very upset about it. Albania is only reacting like this because they don't suffer this problem.
Well, we're seeing this problem on our shores, and Stella, I've twice in PMQs urged the Prime Minister to declare a state of emergency in the Channel. We've had terrorists arrested recently. We've had the Casey report saying that a significant amount of child rape and grooming is committed by people who come in via this route. I mean, I tell you what, Tuesday, the Prime Minister might get over, but this issue, this is damaging the Labour Prime Minister's credibility.
But this is why the response needs to be a European response and ideally an international response, because for all of the flaws of international law and for all of the flaws of the Convention of Refugees, there were good reasons why we came up as humanity, as civilization,
80
why we
years
came
ago.
up. Exactly. So this is a good time for us to come together again and work together, and the UK needs to work with the EU on this issue, because it is not as simple as just saying, are you suggesting that the UK is going to have whatever military operations they want across the Middle East, and then all of the refugees that end up on the Greek shores, for example, are to be the problem of Greece? This cannot be the case.
No,
I'm just giving an example, right?
I was there,
an
Stella,
example.
I was there in 2015 when this problem started, you know, and the European Union drew up its refugee policy. And I opposed it from day one. I said, if anyone that can cross the Mediterranean and set foot on EU soil is allowed to stay, millions will come.
Yeah, but there needs to be a solution for refugees, because when you have a situation, for example, like Palestine, you cannot then look at that and say, oh, well, what... You have to think about the refugees. Every action has consequences.
Do you think people crossing... Do you think young men crossing the English Channel in boats qualify as refugees?
Yes, absolutely. Where do you think refugees go?
No.
You
Never see the women
what other? Okay,
oh, they will be left behind.
Yeah,
but that
it's
is
the men who fled.
No, that is what always happens. The men always go first. And then when they establish a secure connections, then they try to...
Historically, that is completely untrue. I'm sorry, Stella.
No.
Historically, that is completely untrue.
That is true. I'm sorry. This is what happened to my grandparents. First, my grandparents' father and uncle came to Greece, and then they brought the children and the wife.
Let me assure you, when the Ugandan Asians came, they came as families. When the Huguenots came, they came as families. When
but we haven't given them the option to go to a British consulate and apply. We haven't given them that option.
We've taken 500,000 refugees since 2016.
How many
and that is a tiny amount compared to what other countries have
I tell you what, it's far too much for the British public and the electorate.
For the amount the UK has had in terms of a role to play in all of these armed conflicts that created these refugees, this is nowhere near enough.
We're not the only continent in the world who has responsibility for refugees.
I'm not saying that we do. I'm absolutely not saying that we do. That's why there needs to be a European and international
500,000 is plenty. Sam, just a quick thought on this before we go to the break. This issue damaged the Conservative government very severely.
Hugely.
I think the public's even angrier and even more concerned now.
I think we see the boat crossings are rising. Yeah. They are not. There is no sign of the gangs being smashed.
No.
People are hugely frustrated by the lack of action from this Labour government. By 4 years' time, I think we're going to be in serious trouble.
So do I. In a moment, we discuss what has happened to the Democrat Party in the USA as they choose a candidate to run for the mayor of New York who is genuinely on the hard left. Has traditional, soft Democrat politics now gone out of the window?
Can't wait to get in that sea. Lovely and warm. Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Lots of hot and sunny weather around the Mediterranean at the moment. Temperatures rising again in Spain. Quite a brisk breeze blowing at times over the Canaries. Some fine sunny weather here. A bit breezy too along the Portuguese coast, but a lot of sunshine across much of Iberia, through Italy and across the Greek islands as well. It'll turn a little cooler across the eastern Med as we head into the weekend, but temperatures continuing to rise in Spain and Portugal on Saturday and Sunday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hot and sunny weather is on the way for many by the end of the weekend, but for the next 24 hours it's going to be very changeable, very mixed across the country, with thicker cloud returning to many northern and western parts overnight and outbreaks of rain along with tight isobars. That means a freshening breeze. We do start with some clear spells during the evening, but quite quickly the thicker cloud rolls in from the west and we're going to see dreary conditions by dawn, especially towards the northwest, with outbreaks of rain for Western Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northwest England, North Wales. After some rain moves through earlier in the night, it's drying up by this stage across southern parts of the UK. Even some sunshine first thing through southern England, parts of the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. But thick cloud further north and low cloud at that, so it's going to be covering some of these hills in Western Scotland, misty conditions around the coast. Drizzly outbreaks of rain, especially for central and western Scotland into northwest England, Northern Ireland. That rain will be on and off, but it will be persistent over some of the hills and mountains. Likewise for North Wales, but drier for South Wales, just 1 or 2 light showers. Equally, a few spots of rain, perhaps over Dartmoor, but mostly dry towards the southwest. And the best of the sunshine during the morning will be through the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, where it will feel warm and increasingly humid once again, with the wind coming from the southwest. And that wind will be picking up strength across northern parts of the UK, bringing more persistent and heavier rain into Western Scotland, northwest England by the end of the afternoon, making it feel on the cool side, but temperatures up to 27 or 28 Celsius, where we see the sunshine in the southeast. That leads us on to a muggy night for sleeping and a grey start to the weekend for many of us. Now, the areas of rain across Scotland sink south into central parts of the country by Saturday afternoon and then fizzle away as high pressure builds in from the south. That's going to import much hotter air by the end of the weekend and the start of next week.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At 9 p.m. here on GB News, it is the Patrick Christys Show. He joins me now to tell me what is on the menu.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Loads coming your way. We've got a huge exclusive from Calais. We know that rapists, murderers, paedophiles, etc. have come across the English Channel, but we have come into possession of this video. That is what we believe to be an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. A human trafficker sent me that video earlier today. I will have the full story for you, 9 to 11 p.m. on Patrick Christys Tonight.
Yeah, Patrick, thank you very much indeed. And indeed, one of those charming young men even had a Kalashnikov tattooed on his face, threatened to kill me, and is still on remand in the UK, hasn't yet faced a proper trial. There you go. Now, something big is happening in American politics. Traditionally, the Democrats are, you know, a softish centre-left party. And yet, the primaries are over for the Democrat candidate to be the next mayor of New York. And Zohran Mamdani has won. He campaigned openly as a Muslim. He campaigned openly as pro-Palestinian. He campaigned openly as being anti-Israel. He campaigned openly saying that charities in New York that sent money to Israel or supported Israeli causes would lose their tax benefits. He campaigned to double the minimum wage. He campaigned to control food prices and much else. If you think Sadiq Khan's on the left, he is nothing compared with Mamdani. And I've got to tell you, I've known New York for nearly half a century. I've seen it through its ups and its downs. Currently, it is down. If this guy wins, it'll go down even further, in my opinion. I'm joined down the line by Jim Kennedy, Communications Director and former advisor to Bill Clinton. Jim, good evening, or good afternoon for you. What has happened? What has happened to the Democrat Party that it could select someone like this? I mean, surely to you, having been around Bill Clinton and others, this must be almost unthinkable.
Yeah, he's clearly the flavor of the month, but it's a very bitter herb, which I think could be disastrous for the party. My old colleague in the White House, Josh Gottheimer, he's a congressman from New Jersey, and he's spoken out with some concern about what's ahead for the Democrats with the election of someone like Mamdani in New York. And I think that bodes ill for the future of the party.
It's been quite difficult from this side of the pond, and maybe from yours as well, since November the 5th last year, to work out kind of where the Democratic Party really stands on anything at the moment. I mean, they don't appear to me to be giving any opposition at all.
I know, and there's two big problems with what Mamdani represents. First of all, his anti-Israel stance, his support of the BDS, the boycott and divestment and sanctions regime, which is very anti-Israel. That's a problematic point of view. And also his economic policies. He wants to have free bus service. He wants to have government-run shopping centers. He wants to have safe injection zones for drug addicts. There's no such thing as a safe zone, I don't think. He wants to legalize prostitution. There's a whole host of issues which are far to the left and I think detrimental to the party as a whole.
And yet, he'll probably win, won't he?
Well, probably, but I think Eric Adams may possibly be able to succeed if Curtis Sliwa, who's a Republican nominee, drops out. Eric Adams could put together a coalition of conservative Democrats, independents, Republicans, and people who are concerned about what Mamdani represents. So possibly he could prevail, but it's a tough road.
Jim, I'm with you. I'd love to see Eric Adams stand and get support across the board. And I think he might just do it if he did. But otherwise, it ain't good for New York. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Really interesting, that, Stella. Really fascinating. And the analysis, too, was very interesting, I thought, as well. You know, Labour did this back in the 80s. The Labour Party went way to the left in the 80s, had a catastrophic election in 83, and Blair took it to a more moderate, well, to be fair, Kinnock and Smith too, to a more moderate position. This is disastrous for the Democrats, isn't it?
I don't think you can compare Labour in the 80s with what's happening in the US right now. I'm very hopeful of this result because what he's showing to us is that a left wing and the left and the left of centre can win when they put policies to the public which are actually left wing and which address the public's material concerns. Now, I definitely don't agree with a lot of the things that he suggested.
Defunding the police. He was campaigning to defund the police.
No, that was absolutely insane, and that was a very unfortunate time in the US when they were suggesting this, and a lot of people have rolled this back and have realized that it was a very bad idea. But what he did for his campaigning was he focused on the material needs of New Yorkers. And he focused on the cost of living, which is what everyone is feeling. And you said earlier that the Democrats used to be the party of the soft, moderate left.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case. I think what the Democrats became was a neoliberal party whose economic policies were far too close for comfort with the Republicans.
I don't disagree with that. But, you know, a political leader that says he's going to control food prices is pretty Soviet stuff. I think this is, Sam, I mean, it's the same principle here. Stella says the comparison with the 80s is false, but it's not. You know, if centre-left parties go way left, they lose. I mean, the Republicans must be laughing their socks off,
Absolutely.
really.
And you know, the instinct, he may have stepped back from the defund the police thing. But you can clearly see that's where his instincts are. Legalising prostitution. I mean, imagine the streets of New York. It's just going to become the hellhole it was back in the bad old days. And I think...
and it was bad in the 80s.
And it was. Yeah. And, you know, the zero tolerance, the kind of...
Giuliani.
Yeah,
Rudy
absolutely.
Giuliani. Yeah.
Put it back on its feet. And I think, actually, New Yorkers... Clearly, they're a metropolitan bunch, and I think this is a reaction to Trump. And but it's a bit of a be careful what you wish for. New Yorkers are also successful people. They're people who've got get up and go. They make money. And they're entrepreneurial. They've got creativity. And I think with the socialist mayor, they're going to find that their life is hard.
Really interesting. The number of people that have been leaving New York and heading down to Miami, Palm Beach, that trend's been there already.
The amount of people who have been leaving the US more generally because of Donald Trump.
A couple of hundred. I'm talking about tens of thousands leaving New York. completely different. One or two left-wing actresses might have left America because of Trump. People en masse haven't.
You know what? Good riddance. If rich people don't want to pay their taxes in New York and they want to go to Florida,
Poorer still and poorer. Put Stella in charge. The country will be bankrupt, but morally she'll feel she's in the right. Isn't that marvellous? Now, I'll tell you a very serious subject. My What the Farage moment. A poll for ITV London showing that 57% of women in London surveyed said they do not feel safe on the streets of London. If you actually sort of, for a moment, think about that, it is absolutely horrifying. I'm beginning to think that law and order, that safety, that crime is going to become the single biggest issue in this country. Sam, horrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, you know, Sadiq Khan, under his mayoralty, we have seen a decline in London. And I think it is very similar to the story we've just been talking about, really, New York, London. These cities are the beating hearts of, you know, of great nations. And actually, they're being reduced, they're being brought down, they're being kind of brought down by this kind of small-minded pettiness that hampers people's creativity and entrepreneurialism. And actually, this left-wing mindset where you are soft on crime just adds to this sense of decay.
I predicted, Stella, years ago that the open border policy to poor or relatively poor former communist countries would mean that we get the best from some of those countries, but we get the worst as well. And if you actually look at crime in London, it's nearly all foreign gangs, dominated entirely by foreign gangs. Terrifying. Over 50% of women in London. We're in a bad place.
As a left-winger, I think that it is perfectly possible to be both open and to not have prejudice against migrants and recognise the contribution they're doing to society, and at the same time be extremely harsh with those who are being criminal. And I don't think that most people do not really have I don't think that people have a problem with being tough on crime. I think what's going on at the moment is that our police, over the years, have been defunct from resources, and we are spending our money on all of these other things. We are talking about, you know, we're talking about, for example, our defence spending, and I completely agree that defence spending is very, very important. Our international security is extremely important, but what have we been doing to our police budgets over the years?
Well, we've had up to 1,000 Metropolitan Police looking at what we say on Facebook and Twitter, whilst allowing rampant shoplifting, mugging, and, you know, women now in fashionable parts of London dare not wear watches or jewellery.
But there is more online crime. It may not be. It may not. I completely.
Crime is about priorities.
I agree with you.
And
I do not really care about
shoplifting is important.
But there is more online crime as well. And yes, shoplifting is not being tackled. And I think that I think that the Labour government will be very well advised to focus on the things that people can feel on their day-to-day life, and getting your phone snatched on a weekly basis.
Oh, yeah. And I tell you what, stop and search is very popular, etc. I'm going to say goodbye to my lovely argumentative panel. And in a moment, I'm going to get a leader of the Chagossians who's still fighting for the British Indian Ocean territory. He's now going for a legal challenge. I'm sceptical, but let's hear what the plan is.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Whenever I look at the Chagos deal, whatever aspect it is, I think this is wrong. It makes no sense at all. But perhaps the most immoral dimension of this is what has happened to the Chagosian people, who, from what I can see, have not been consulted. They do not want the sovereignty of those islands to go to Mauritius, that many of them have suffered racism, genuine racism, at the hands of the Mauritians. And yet, it would appear they frankly weren't consulted. They're not allowed to go back to their homeland. I'm joined in the studio by a man who's been fighting very, very hard on behalf of his community, Misley Mandarin, founder, British Indian Ocean Territory. Misley, you've tried like crazy. I've tried in my own way like crazy on this. The government have just steamrolled it ahead. You're going to try and take this now to a legal challenge.
Yes.
What is the basis of your claim?
So basically, it's been happening. It's always a backstory about the Chagos Island, Nigel. People need to know about it. The Labour government in the 60s and 70s removed the Chagosians. That was under Harold Wilson. Yep. And now under Keir Starmer, he's doing worse to us. Don't give a say about our homeland.
Yeah.
So this is terrible for us. So our judicial review, the legal action we're doing now, we're going to say you have to stop that deal. We have to have a say in it. We have our self-determination, the right of abode in our homeland.
Yeah, I mean, and you're not just Chagosian, you're British as well, of course.
I am British. I'm very proud to be British, and I serve in the British Army, Nigel.
Yeah, I know.
I serve in the British Army, willing to give my life for this country, willing to give my life for the crown. So I don't understand how this Labour government under Keir Starmer is treating Chagosian, British Chagosian.
Under this deal, there's no way back to the islands?
No at all. No at all. It's all gimmicks. Keir Starmer saying like, oh, no, basically he's giving the island to Mauritius, but Mauritius got more than 50 years. When we've been deported to Mauritius in abject poverty, left in the docks with nothing.
And treated badly.
Very badly, worse than second-class citizens, more than 50 years. So why now Mauritius will do something for the British Chagosians?
I think part of this legal case and part of the debate is this government is a great believer in the United Nations.
Yeah.
And I think when the United Nations was founded, we all would have been great believers in it. We might be questioning some aspects of it today, but the United Nations Charter right at the beginning. The basis of the UN is the self-determination of peoples.
Yeah.
These are lines that will come up in court, yeah?
Yes, of course. And like you said, back then, yes, everybody was happy, but the world changed. Everybody want to control the world now. It's the China sees, and now if we give sovereignty to Mauritius, the Indian Ocean gonna be full of Chinese military base.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how the logic of it. I don't understand at all.
And also the marine park.
Yeah.
The 200-mile exclusive marine park around Chagos, which actually, globally, in terms of the oceans, is very important.
It's a pristine area where there's no commercial fishing on it.
I know.
But the record of Mauritius is not very good. If you remember, a few years ago, it had a Japanese vessel who spilled oil on Mauritius, and they could not manage it. So can you imagine this? When we're talking about the marine park area of the Chagos Island, is really big. It's bigger than United Kingdom altogether.
Yeah.
So
yes.
If you think of it, it's not only beneficial for the Chagosian, it's beneficial for all the United Kingdom and the world as well.
I think David Attenborough would certainly approve
of course.
those comments. And as for the Chagosian people, a lot of them still living in the Crawley.
Most of them living in Crawley and Manchester. But you know what I did as well? The government, the Chagosian are British. When I said to the government, the Chagosian want to fled Mauritius because in Mauritius they got a thing called the penal code. If in Mauritius you're saying like, oh, Chagos is British, we want to be British, you could be jailed for more than 10 years or pay a hefty fine for it. People is fled in Mauritius coming now. When we come here, the government don't want to look after us.
No.
We were appalling because in Diego Garcia, we had Sri Lanka. You know the story, because Sri Lankans was in Diego Garcia, right? We were living in tent for 2 years. When this Labour government came to power, they took those Sri Lankans, bring to Crawley, the same place where the Chagosian who were British, the same hotel, but the Chagosian did not have anything, but the Sri Lankan get everything.
The whole thing. I have to say,
got everything.
It is a very, very sorry tale. Right
it is.
From the very start, and I've been very publicly supportive of everything.
Thank you very much.
Do I really have? And you're gonna.
So I'm very proud. I'm very proud. So this is the T-shirt of Biocitizen. You see the flag. We're very proud covering the flag. You see.
Yes.
And here you're a Biocitizen as well.
Well, there you are. And I tell you what, I will actually wear it. And I think what the government are doing to you, to our security, to everything, is a complete. An absolute disgrace. And Misley, I will go on trying to be a voice for you. I wish you well with legal action, but it's going to be very, very tough.
It's going to be very tough. And one thing I want to say as well, if I have the occasion to talk to two people, our king, please help us, and the president of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump, please help us. If Keir Starmer willing to give the sovereignty to Mauritius, but us as British Chagosian rather to share the sovereignty with Americans, we're going to be better off.
That would be a better deal.
We're going to be better off.
I agree. Misley, thank you for coming into the studio.
That's no problem.
Now, nearly at the end for me tonight, but joining us down from the other studio, presenting State of the Nation, is Matt Goodwin. So, Matt, tell me, what have you got coming up this evening?
Good evening, Nigel. Well, if we ever thought there was a divide between the people who run this country and the people who live in this country, I'm going to show you just how big that divide is. We've got some brand new exclusive bombshell polling on deportations and what the British people really think about that. We're going to be looking at the latest gender gobbledygook that is running rife in Britain's schools, and we're going to be looking at all of this rebellion within the Labour Party over the welfare reforms. We've got a top panel joining us tonight, Poppy Gober and Michael Walker. See you in a couple of minutes.
OK, Matt, my final thought for the evening is people like Misley here who've served their country, are lower British subjects, treated appallingly, come over by boat and get given everything. Over and out from me, let's get the weather with Aidan McGibbon.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hot and sunny weather is on the way for many by the end of the weekend, but for the next 24 hours it's going to be very changeable, very mixed across the country, with thicker cloud returning to many northern and western parts overnight and outbreaks of rain along with tighter isobars. That means a freshening breeze. We do start with some clear spells during the evening, but quite quickly the thicker cloud rolls in from the west and we're going to see dreary conditions by dawn, especially towards the northwest, with outbreaks of rain for Western Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northwest England, North Wales. After some rain moves through earlier in the night, it's drying up by this stage across southern parts of the UK. Even some sunshine first thing through southern England, parts of the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. But thick cloud further north and low cloud at that, so it's going to be covering some of these hills in Western Scotland, misty conditions around the coast. Drizzly outbreaks of rain, especially for central and western Scotland into northwest England, Northern Ireland. That rain will be on and off, but it will be persistent over some of the hills and mountains. Likewise for North Wales, but drier for South Wales, just one or two light showers. Equally, a few spots of rain, perhaps over Dartmoor, but mostly dry towards the southwest. And the best of the sunshine during the morning will be through the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, where it will feel warm and increasingly humid once again, with the wind coming from the southwest. That wind will be picking up strength across northern parts of the UK, bringing more persistent and heavier rain into Western Scotland, northwest England by the end of the afternoon, making it feel on the cool side, but temperatures up to 27 or 28 Celsius, where we see the sunshine in the southeast. That leads us on to a muggy night for sleeping and a grey start to the weekend for many of us. Now, the areas of rain across Scotland sink south into central parts of the country by Saturday afternoon and then fizzle away as high pressure builds in from the south. That's going to import much hotter air by the end of the weekend and the start of next week.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster